Part 2. Day 157. Mabel texts me that she's back in Austin. We've texted on and off since the last time we hung out. She even came to my work a couple of times because I offered her free smoothies. My old work, that is. Now I'm unemployed and have very little going for me except the money I have saved up. It'll last me a month or two at the most, which is worrisome. But Mabel just got back from a family trip and wants to see me. Perfect timing, now that Nat and I are officially over. I invite her to my apartment later that night. The thought of seeing her comforts me. It reassures me that someone, somewhere, still wants me. And it's exciting, too, being able to meet new girls and do whatever I want. What I want right now is to fill my time with friends, and with Mabel. But my friends have been busy of late, so Mabel's my priority. When she comes over, I guide her straight into my bedroom because my brother's home, and he always leaves his goddamn door open, so sitting in the living room isn't an option. We also don't have any furniture in the living room, so there's that. Do you want to smoke? I ask her. I bought more weed after Nat and I broke up just to cope, you know. Yeah, she gives me a kiss. But tell me how you've been. Ask me how I've been. I've been good, I say. I'm in this weird spot with Mabel where I can't be honest with her about how I've been because that would mean telling her about Nat. But I also don't know how to hide my emotions and the fact that I am sad. Hopefully I'm stable enough that she won't notice. Work can get stressful, but it's always rewarding to see people's faces when they try the food for the first time. It's a Thai place, right? Yeah. We should go sometime, she smiles. We should. I start grinding weed. So, how about you? How have you been? How's the trip? Great. We just went up to Dallas to visit family, but otherwise I don't know. My mom and I have been fighting a lot more recently. It's okay, though. Fighting about what? She's bipolar, and lately it's been bad. She'll get manic and, yell at me or my brother for small things, like being 5 minutes late to see her. It's hard seeing her like that, but at the same time, it's gotten easier now that I'm in school. How often do you see her? I finish packing the bowl as she answers a few more of my questions. I open a window to allow the smell and the smoke out, as if my brother didn't know what I was up to. Mabel hits it first, then hands it to me. We go back and forth until it's cashed. I pack another one, and we finish that, too. The high puts me in my head and makes it harder for me to kiss Mabel. Nothing describes the fear better than irrational, because that's what it is. We've had sex already, held hands in public, kissed in public, gone down on each other. Kissing shouldn't be an issue, except I'm so self-conscious when I'm stoned that it ends up being her that initiates. I'm also deeply ashamed of my sexuality. She takes off that black leather jacket of hers that I like and pushes me onto the bed. Then her fat unfolds onto my chest and her weight becomes suffocating. Her stomach crushes my pelvis. She bites my lip and runs her nails down my chest, peeling skin and hair off as she does. Ouch! She laughs and does it again. Hey, that hurts! Then she slides her tongue up and down the open cuts, up and down and up and down and up and down one more time until she reaches my belly button. Her hands work my pants off while her tongue tickles the hell out of me, but I'm pinned down so I can't get away. She leaves my pants on ankle high and takes me in her mouth. I'm rock hard. My thoughts run around in circles. She's fat and I'm kind of ashamed to be inside of her right now, but I'm a broken fucking asshole, and losers can't be choosers. Mabel's on meds, her mom is bipolar. I worry that maybe we're getting more attached than we realize. I don't want to make the same mistake with her that I did with Nat and let her bully me into a relationship. However, she was the one who said she didn't want it to be serious. There shouldn't be anything to worry about. It's all a product of my dumb fucking ego filling me with horseshit ideas, like I'm so good looking and funny she couldn't possibly be serious about wanting to keep it casual. She must be fooling herself. She definitely wants me. After a while of going down on me, she stops and the abruptness of it all brings me out of my head and back to the present. Not for long though, because Mabel's quick to undress and quick to start fucking me, and I can't look at her when she's on top of me. All of her fat piles down on her belly, her tits sagging onto the fat. So I close my eyes and let her fuck me. I don't feel excited anymore. It'll be over in 5 minutes and then I'll be back to square one. I'm kinda grossed out, actually, because the thought of being intimate with someone I'm embarrassed to be seen in public with scares me. And yet I do nothing to stop her. I've continued to text her back, continued to show interest, and continued to have sex with her. By now I've put so much of my cum inside her that I figure one more load won't change a thing. So I mentioned in this chapter, or in this day, that I'm deeply ashamed of my sexuality, And there are little hints throughout the book as to why that is, but I don't think that I ever dove deep into the reason. And, it's still something that I'm piecing together, obviously. But growing up, I had very little support when it came to sexual topics. I mean, this is a common thing amongst kids even nowadays, where sex ed isn't really taught to you until you're in 6th, 7th, maybe 8th grade. And when it is, it's not taught appropriately. Everybody's making fun of it, and everybody's kind of, it's not really a safe space. But I also had no conversations with my parents about these kinds of things, because they had shame that they sort of transferred onto me. So, like, I remember my dad, one of the only times he and I ever talked about sex was I had gone to the doctor for some strep throat or something. And mind you, I was 17 at the time. And this was the first time that we were talking about sex, at least to my memory. And at the doctor asked me, are you smoking marijuana? All of those questions. Have you been sexual recently? And I had to answer yes, and my dad was there with me. And so when we got home, there was this, this tension of like, well, now you know something that I hadn't admitted before. Are you going to say something about it? Are we going to talk about it? And all my dad did was he said, so you're wearing condoms, right? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, okay. And then that was the whole conversation. So it's not necessarily that he's, telling me, oh, you should be ashamed of this, or that's bad, but indirectly, by not talking to me about it and by being sort of shy and having a three sentence interaction about it, he is telling me, this is something that I don't feel comfortable talking about. And by doing that, well, then I don't feel comfortable talking about it either, because you are who I am learning from. And outside of my parents, outside of school, I also had experiences where I didn't really know what to make of them, but they were experiences that my friends weren't talking about or weren't having altogether. When I moved with my mother, my brother, and I moved to San Francisco when I was 11 years old, and around a year, we spent about a year there, but about halfway into that year, I'd made a solid group of friends, and we all had a sleepover at one of the kids' houses. And in the middle of the night, I was sleeping next to the couch, and there was somebody sleeping on the couch. His name doesn't matter. But so this kid, in the middle of the night, I'm still awake, right? Because I'm so excited that we're all spending the night together, and some kids are still having conversations. But once everybody had stopped talking, and I was just kind of, lying there restless, I felt my eyes closed. This kid grabbed my hand and put it on lifted it onto the couch and put it inside his pants, and, sort of fondled himself with my hand. And at the time, I mean, I don't consider it, it was exploratory. It's not any kind of abusive example that I'm trying to give, but all that I'm trying to say is, I didn't really know what to make of that situation, but I knew, because I had spent 11 years in Mexico, that any male sexual interaction was, you were called a faggot, or you were called all sorts of names. And this was, homosexuality was something that was used to put down people, even if it was just joking, like the word faggot, like, oh, don't be such a fag. Like, that was just, that was the most common way to put somebody down or to tease somebody. And so you learn as a kid growing up in Mexico, like, being gay is one of the worst things you could do. And so when you have one of these experiences, at least when I had this experience, I was just so afraid for people to find out. And I was so afraid to talk to my parents about it because at that point we hadn't had a conversation about any sort of sexual topics. You know, I'd had two girlfriends up to that point, and I had hid them. I had hid the fact that I had a girlfriend from my parents because I was so afraid of what they would say and how they would make me feel. And so, you know, it's just I had numerous interactions like this at the party where it was sort of a sexual experience, but a very tame one, and it was with another guy. And so then I started to create ideas or narratives about who I was, you know, and who I was somebody that kept their sexuality secret because of shame and because of guilt. Because socially, I learned that you don't talk about, not that you don't talk about, but that you, that it's very frowned upon to be homosexual or to even think about being homosexual. And so that's where a lot of my shame comes from when it comes to sexuality. And it's important to know that moving forward with the book. Day 160. I asked Mabel to leave after sex that night, and I guess because of that, we've stopped texting as much. I sent her a message the following Sunday and asked if she wanted to come over and fuck again. I didn't say it like that, but I think she read between the lines because she didn't get back to me until the next day. Since then, it's been weird. It feels more emotional than I want it to. Like she's mad because she couldn't spend the night, even though we agreed to keep it casual. And honestly, I don't have the bandwidth to communicate the way she wants us to. All I'm looking for is someone to make me feel better about myself, and Mabel's just not cutting it anymore. It's too bad she doesn't know why, though, because she really is a nice girl. Hopefully she doesn't take it personal. She shouldn't. I didn't ghost her. I wasn't dishonest about my intentions. Things simply ran their course. If I think about it long enough, I can understand why this whole train of thought is egotistical as fuck. I mean, every time we had sex, I kept telling myself she couldn't care less about me. But now that it's looking like it's over, I'm acting like she's crazy about me, just because she wants to spend more time with me than I do with her? I bet she's not even thinking of me anymore. I'm not that great. Otherwise, my relationship with Nat would have panned out better. All of a sudden, I feel rejected by Mabel, rejected by Nat, rejected by the world. I feel as unattractive as I ever have. Like no matter who I ask on a date right now, the answer will be no 100% of the time. Unless that someone is as desperate as I am. And I know exactly where to find desperate people. Desperate men. Craigslist. I can usually email back and forth and meet up with a guy within 2 hours. But noon on a workday means all the ads are looking for young dudes to come suck them off in their office, and I just don't want to risk getting caught like that. So I play a little game with myself. I start masturbating as I refresh the men seeking men listings every 2 or 3 minutes. If something pops up that seems like a match, I stop and shoot them an email. Soon enough it happens. Right as I'm about to come, I see a wanted ad from a man in his early 60s. He's looking for a young man like me to come to his hotel and suck him dry. We message back and forth a few times and trade pictures. He sends me the name of his hotel and the room number and agrees to pay me $100 for my time. I get the shakes just thinking of what I've gotten myself into. There's very little I can compare the feeling to. Reaching the final stages in a poker tournament comes to mind. You can't predict what will happen, but you have a pretty good idea of what can happen, and if you play your cards right, you'll get a cash prize at the end. My hands sweat as I call my ride. I avoid conversation with the driver. I don't want to have normal human interactions right now, because what I'm about to do does not feel normal or human to me. It's something I have to keep secret from everyone I know, my driver included. I'm also kind of worried that if I talk to him, I'll snap out of my funk and realize how stupid it is for me to meet a stranger in their hotel room. But just thinking the words meet, stranger, and hotel room gives me a hard-on. I tuck it into the waistband of my sweatpants and get out of the car. The Hilton on 4th Street stands tall in front of me. I'm always nervous going into these meets that I'll get busted by cops or that the staff will stop me from strolling into an elevator. It almost feels like I'm a character in a stealth video game. My mission is to blend in, as if I need more adrenaline. When I get to the 3rd floor and find the room, I knock 3 times. The door opens and the man from the pictures appears, just as wrinkly and old as he was on my computer screen. "Come in," he says, gentleness in his voice. "Make yourself comfortable." Whenever guys tell me to make myself comfortable, I stand by the bed and wait for them to come over to me. They always do. They like to smell me and touch me and be the ones to undress me. This guy's no different. Once he's stripped me down and squeezed my balls long enough, he lies down and asks me to massage his back. I can't stand being asked to massage men. Like, that's the part I'm not okay with. But I do. I rub his back and press down on his shoulders. He groans. I do this for 15 minutes. Then he asks me to lie with my mouth facing up. My feet touch the pillows and my head is on the opposite end of the bed. He crawls over to my face and stretches one leg over it so that his balls are resting on my eyes. So saggy they split and each cover one eye. "Open up," he says. So I do. "That's better. Now stay there and don't move." At first he sort of forces his soft cock in my mouth, because it's not big enough to stay in there on its own. As it grows, he drops his upper body over my lower body and grabs onto my legs for balance. His balls cover my nose now, my eyes opening and closing to the rhythm of his thrusting. I notice 5 $20 bills by the TV with a wallet pinning them down. He must be fully erect now. The salty pre-cum taste rubs against the back of my throat. I can't think about it too long or else my gag reflex gets worse. His groaning increases in speed. Short bursts of energy I can tell are physically taxing for him. There's so much saliva and mucus shielding my tonsils from the tip of his cock that I can't tell what I'm tasting anymore. "That was amazing, boy," he says as he pushes in deep one last time. "How does it feel to have daddy's cum in you? Tastes good?" He slides out and rolls off of me. "Tastes great," I lie. I'm surprised to hear him say he came, because usually when that happens, I cough like crazy and choke on the cum, and because I told him I didn't want cum in my mouth. But I guess he wanted his money's worth. "Money's by the TV. Do you need to use the restroom before you leave?" "If that's okay, yeah. Please." I do what I can to wash out my mouth. Then I put my clothes back on as he sits against the bed rest watching me and smelling his hands. He looks so much more at peace now than he did when I first came in. Seeing how happy I've made him isn't as rewarding as I thought it would be. So I put the money in my pocket and think of how cool it is that I made that much money that fast. $100 is like a full day of work at a normal job. "You're so much hotter than the rest of the boys I've met with," he says. At least someone thinks highly of me. I would have paid so much more for that. I laugh because I don't know how else to react. "If you ever want to make some more money, you know how to reach me." "I will." I leave his room and walk down to the lobby. Day 163. It doesn't take long for the shame from one encounter to wear off. By Friday I'm lonely and hard again, my mind convincing me that I can't just masturbate the feeling away. And I don't have a job yet, so I'm spending a lot of fucking time by myself, thinking and never doing it right. I spend all day watching movies or dumb YouTube videos while also searching the ads and emailing back and forth with a couple of guys. Some of them I email just to get hard, like the dom subtypes, because thinking of being tied up and spanked gets me off, but I'm not sure I'm ready for something that intense. Then after 3 or 4 emails, they realize all I want is for them to describe what they want to do to me so I can jerk off to their reply. Go fuck yourself, dude. Stop wasting my time. Another guy emails me his address and asks how soon I can be there. I delete the email and hope he'll get the hint. As I wait for more replies to come in, I think about how crazy it is that there are so many men in Austin that all want the same thing. I wonder how many of them I've come across without knowing that we share the same secret. I also wonder when one of the guys I've met up with will see me in my real life and ruin the surprise for everyone. Maybe they'll recognize the back of my head in a dark movie theater and tap my shoulder. "Hey, it's me. Want to suck me off in the bathroom real quick?" I never think about what my answer would be because I know it'd come down to what I was feeling in the moment and who I was with. If you haven't already realized, I'm about as impulsive as they come. When I was still working at the smoothie store, I often thought about inviting men into the bathroom early in the morning on slow days, letting them put one down my throat and go about their merry day. Thankfully, I still come to my senses enough to know when it's not a good idea. I always need a guarantee that nobody will find out where I am or what I'm doing. If it seems too dangerous, I rarely go through with it, although that line has only been expanding with each new encounter. It's that whole, no matter how bad it gets, it'll never get me mentality. I don't believe that I'm stupid enough to fall for an obvious trap. My screening process with emails is so thorough that only decent, STD-free men can come from it. At least that's what I keep telling myself. There's definitely a part of me that knows the risk exists, and a lot of the adrenaline comes from uncertainty. When I was 13, I bought a thong and a bra to wear to the park around the block from my dad's apartment. My fantasy was to be noticed by a group of 3 or 4 guys who would then want to take me into the bushes and rape me. That's about as extreme as someone can want you, and I thought if I experienced peak want from someone, I would feel whole again. Point is, even if I end up getting raped by a creep, the wires in my brain are so crossed I'm convinced it'll still be exciting to feel that desired. Anyway, this black dude just emailed a picture of his cock and asked if I'm expert enough to handle a piece that big. I've never been with a black guy, but I have gagged on that size before, so I tell him it's not a problem. My throat is yours to use as you please. If I can't get you off, you don't have to pay me. I think you'll be surprised. He tells me he'll email his address later tonight. It'll be close to midnight. Don't keep me waiting. At 11:30, he emails the name of his hotel, the Hyatt Regency just south of the river. I call a ride and get there by midnight. I'm outside on some patio chairs. What room are you in? Nothing. I email again. Still nothing. The clock on my phone's display says 12:30. 15 minutes later, he emails back. Sorry, got held up. Heading back to hotel now. I consider going home and forgetting about tonight. Drunk men and women come and go from the lobby, none of them noticing me in the corner with my hoodie on. Everyone's out having fun while I'm shaking from excitement at the thought of going down on someone this inconsiderate. I get a rush with every black guy that I spot, waiting for one of them to approach me and drag me to their room. He does finally email me that he's back. I memorize the room number and make my way inside the hotel. It reminds me of the Luxor in Las Vegas, the way the halls are all in the open for everyone to see you as you leave your room, or see me as I enter his. I knock on the door. He opens it and lets me inside. My first thought is, damn, he's tall. Damn, boy, he says. How tall are you? 6'4", 6'3"? 6'3". I wasn't expecting someone taller than me, but we can make it work. I smile. Do you smoke weed, he asks. Yeah. Can you roll? I think so. Roll us a joint then, he says, and hands me everything I need. Then we go out to his balcony, sit down, and light the damn thing. Isn't this view amazing? From where we're sitting, I can see the Austin skyline up close and personal. I get a little bit of everything. The bridges, the river, the lit-up buildings and lit-up cars. I even feel a cool breeze that carries with it the smell of a cold summer night in May. It really is. Is this like the King's Suite or something? He laughs. I'm Marcus. What's your name again? I try to remember which name I gave him. Dave, I lie. You don't look like a Dave. I laugh. You look like a Peter. Can I call you Peter? Sure. Do you do this a lot, Peter? Not a lot, no. Because you look like someone I'd take home to my parents. A moment of quiet floats through us. I'm not saying I will. Don't be scared. I'm just saying you're really hot. Thank you. The weed kicks in and puts me at ease. Not because it calms me down. It actually does the opposite and makes me hyper-aware. It puts me at ease because, like getting blackout drunk, I know I'll have a much easier time compartmentalizing this whole night if I'm not in my 5 senses. You know I got ghosted by like 5 guys before I landed on you? He tosses the dead joint over the balcony. And I've been seeing this guy in Dallas that's such an asshole. I invited him to stay with me in Austin, but as soon as we got here and met up with some of his friends, he disappeared. I told him if he didn't show up by the time I went to bed, I would cut him off. What do you mean, cut him off? I get paid a lot of money to do what I do. I also travel every other week, but I don't need to take care of someone that only wants to take advantage of me. That's for sure. What do you do? Different companies invite me to stay in hotels all around the world and train their managers. Wow, that sounds like a dream job. It's a job, but I guess everyone thinks that when it's their job they're talking about. I wish I made a lot of money. What do you do? I'm not sure if I should tell the truth or not, but I'm high and he doesn't know my real name, so I figure it won't matter. I quit my job recently, so I'm like, in the market for a new one. I laugh. But I don't just want to find another crummy service industry gig that I'll end up hating too. Well, why don't you try something else? What are you good at? What do you like to do? I'm good at writing. What do you write? Short stories, mostly. Maybe we can figure something out for you. I mean, I don't live too far from here, and I visit often. Would you like that? I nod my head, even though that's vague as fuck, and I don't actually want to figure anything out with him, except how much money he's going to pay me for smoking a joint and shooting the shit. At this point, I've forgotten that I'm supposed to put his cock in my mouth before the end of the night. But it seems like he has too, so I roll with it. As long as you promise not to fuck me over like my ex did, I'll take care of you. I promise. He's such a fucking asshole, but like, I'm over it, you know? We got in a terrible fight before he disappeared, and I went straight to the mall after that. There's something about shopping that makes me feel safe. What did you buy? The clothes I'm wearing are all new, he says. Then he points to the ridiculous number of bags in his room and says, that's all new. Some of it was for him, some of it for my family. Maybe some of it can be yours. I stare out at the city, all existential. Being caught in these encounters makes my life feel like a collection of vignettes where every day is treated as its own separate life. The only real theme I can find to link it all together is the void that keeps eating away at me. Does your family know you're gay? He asks. I'm not gay. Are you bi? I think I'm straight, I say. What about... It's kind of like my version of shopping, I smile. What is that supposed to mean? Well, I don't know, I start. I think everyone has something in their life that helps them cope with the pain they experience. For my dad, it's construction. He builds and builds because it's the only thing he has complete control over. My brother comes home from work and all he does is watch TV. Same with my mom. And I think for me, meeting up with you right now is, in a way, an escape from my real life. I can come here and pretend I'm not miserably depressed the same way you can go to the mall and spend a few $100s on shit you don't need. It's what we can control. He looks at me, then at the bags in his room. I'd never thought of it that way. But you're absolutely right. I remember spending like $3,000 after I told my dad that I was gay because he started beating me until I left his house. Jesus, I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be sorry. I'm just blown away that you could figure that out from talking to me for 20 minutes. Yeah, well, it's easier when the spotlight's on someone else, you know. I feel like I'm paying for therapy. We both laugh. I know it's late, he says, but would you still want to suck me off? You can spend the night if you need to. Oh, right. What do you say we meet up again before you leave? I don't know how good I'll be this high, this late. You're right. I just had to ask. We walk inside as I try to make sure I don't forget anything. Here you go, he says, and hands me $200 bills. For hearing all my crap. I can't take that, I say. Like he's my friend and he's trying to pay for my meal or some shit. Yes, you can. You don't have a job. Let me help the best way I know how. I let out a sigh. Thank you. Really. It means a lot. Thank you, he says. I learned a lot from talking to you. You're a smart kid. Please let me know what time works for you tomorrow. I'd hate to miss out on seeing you again. I will. And thanks again for the money. You deserve it. There's more where that came from, too. Don't be shy. Talking to Marcus last night got me thinking about how dishonest I've been with the people in my life. So I published my latest short story today as a first step in the opposite direction. It's a true account of a high school field trip I went on with 50 of my classmates. It's also the story of how I cheated on my girlfriend multiple times and got friends to help cover it for me. Friends and family read the story as well as a few stragglers roaming Tumblr that day. I changed everyone's names but didn't try to hide details. I knew the only people who were going to read it would all know what I was talking about regardless of where or how the story took place. I could have made it a field trip to Mars instead of Chiapas and gotten the same result. What I'm trying to say is that I didn't really think about the girls that were involved, or my friends. I wanted to write an honest story about a shitty fucking thing I did. I wasn't trying to glorify my infidelity. I don't see it that way. Even if in the moment I get all riled up and fucked in the head thinking things like, no one will know, therefore it's okay, deep down I know how flawed those thoughts are and how much harm the experience will bring me. I do it because I feel helpless. I surrender myself to the temptation and bring up all these thoughts as a way to shield myself from the guilt and pain that naturally comes up. However, I did hurt some people by publishing it. Chelsea, one of the girls I cheated with, messaged me a couple of hours after the publication and said, "You better take that story down, or else..." If she knew me any better, she'd know that threats rarely get me to comply. In fact, reading that message from her I felt a little bit vindicated, like, here's this girl trying to hide her truth still, while I'm out doing the Lord's work, putting my soul on paper for everyone to judge. It's too bad you didn't like it, I responded. Another girl took a different approach and simply unfriended me on all social media. All right, I thought. Fair enough. This got me thinking about writing on a wider scale than I normally do, especially when it comes to nonfiction and autobiographical stories. Before publishing Chiapas, I knew from reading other true stories that you were legally supposed to change names and identifying details. At least I thought you were. I never actually did the research. But Tucker Max wrote and published a story about a pageant girl and got sued for it. He won the case because she was a public figure, and none of what he wrote was slander or fake. Then his writing blew up and he became a New York Times bestseller. Here were two conflicting ideals. I wanted my writing to be as honest and raw as Tucker's, but Chelsea and Cecile weren't public figures, so I thought I could get the best of both worlds and write the truth under a slight bend in fiction. It was never about hurting anyone for me. We were all high school kids raging with hormones and insecurities. That doesn't mean bad behavior is excused, but anyone judging me now for who I was in high school can eat a dick. It was about going through unprocessed emotions from my childhood and exposing who I was back then to everyone I know now. I wanted to reduce the overwhelming shame attached to these events in the hopes that maybe I'd be one step closer to not repeating those same mistakes. When I heard from Chelsea and Cecile, I thought maybe I'd made the wrong decision. Maybe I should have thought about how it would impact them in their present day, not just how I would benefit. Then I started hearing from other friends I hadn't talked to in years, friends who weren't involved in any of it, and everyone thought it was great. People who had never read a book in their life sat down to read my 15-page story and found something of value in it. I felt motivated by them. I thought, what other shitty things have I done that I can write about? I knew there was a market for it in Cancun. I knew that down there, no one told the truth. You either play the game of power or become a target for shaming and bullying. So I wrote a few of these story ideas down and told myself I'd get to them when I was ready to. Then I got off my computer and checked my email, and now I'm here, writing this. Marcus just messaged me, asking where I am, and how soon I can be at his hotel again. That reminds me how full of shit I still am. It lets me know there's still so much work to put in. But, if there's anything I know about progress, it's that the sooner you start, the sooner you'll finish. I email Marcus that I won't be able to meet again. Then I put the phone away and go masturbate in the bathroom, fighting myself from taking the email back and going over there to suck him off. One day at a time. One day at a time. Day 170. I have just under $1,400 to my name. 3 weeks ago I had over $3,000, a steady income, and a loving girlfriend. Now all I can do is wonder how and why I got to this point, though I know it won't help me get out. I need to be dressed and ready to go 5 minutes ago if I want to keep my current job at the hostel, the one I'm still technically in training for. They asked me to study several different menus, including their cocktail and wine offerings. Have I? Of course not, and I can thank my high school self for this. Ironically, that was where I learned how to get away with not studying. Today is the first of 3 soft openings I am scheduled to work. I estimate that I know 20% of the information I need in order to succeed. Some of that is due to the lack of training I received, but a lot of it also comes down to me not sitting down and putting in the work. Instead, I have dedicated most of my time to what feels like a mission to self-destruct. Take right now, for example. My goal was to study for 1 hour and then do my best at the hostel, but I found it much more rewarding to scroll through the job listings on Craigslist. I opened 12 different tabs and gave myself 45 minutes to fuck around with them. 2 hours later, the only thing I've studied is an application to become a webcam model. It advertises potential monthly earnings of over $3,000. $3,000 for something I used to do for free when I was 13. What scares me is how quickly this became an option for me. Months ago, the owner at my old job offered me a position managing his 6th Street store. I would have made roughly $30,000 a year at 21 for doing exactly the same job I was doing at $11 an hour. Fuck me. Now I'm considering jerking off for a living. Imagine that. I guess it's not too implausible to think that a homeless man could have made $100,000 merely a year before ruining his life. Perhaps this is my version of that. I'm just not sure I can make it out of this hole. Not this time. Especially not after missing my shift. Day 175. I've started going on dates again. I'd been trying to since Mabel and I stopped hanging out, but just never got anywhere with it. So far I've been on 2. I'm being real careful with my money, so both dates were at a coffee shop, and all we ended up drinking was water. People don't realize that if you're interesting enough, you don't need to spend that much money every time you go out. One of the girls brought her poodle to our date. I didn't notice till she sat down and set her purse on the table. The poodle popped its head out of the bag and started barking at me. We had to tie him to the bottom of the table, away from my feet, and from there, the date didn't do much for me. Just seeing the kind of dog she owned turned me off to the idea of going on a second date, so the jig was up from the start. We talked small for about an hour before I told her I had a kickboxing class to get to. Another girl, Carla, sat with me at the exact same table a couple of days later. She had long brown hair and looked like a news anchor, that put-together, made-up kind of face. We talked about school and hobbies and meditation. "Have you meditated before?" I asked her. "Every night," she said. "No way! What kind of meditation?" "Well, first I get on my knees and rest my arms on my bed. Then I close my eyes and pray to God for 5 minutes." So, 5 minutes later, I told her I had a kickboxing class to get to. Anyway, now I'm working a part-time gig at a co-working space called Start Life. I'm scheduled Monday to Friday, 9 to noon, and all I really have to do is sit at a desk and give tours when the doorbell rings. I thought it'd be a great way to focus more on finishing my book, but I've never been good at writing around people. We allow dogs at the office too, so that doesn't help either. Instead, I've picked up an old hobby, Texas Hold'em. The ban is still up for poker sites in the US, but somehow there's one that's operational. If you read the agreement, it talks about how they handle all their money offshore. A loophole, I guess. So I deposited $50 and started building from there. When I'm at the office, I play cash games, because you can get up from those any time. At home, I play sit-and-go tournaments. It's a great distraction from being single and bored. I tell myself it doesn't matter how much money I lose, as long as it's keeping me from hustling. And it is. What it's not keeping me from is exploring this webcam modeling stuff. I created an account and started hanging out in the chat rooms in between tournaments. Here's how it works. You join a chat room with 300 strangers. You can decide whether or not your camera will be on for everyone to see you, or if you'd rather stick to texting. Obviously, among so many horny dudes, not showing face limits your audience, so my camera's on. Then, people can tip you $1 at a time, or invite you to a private chat and offer a rate per minute. It's up to you to negotiate. If you like the offer, accept and you get redirected to the new room where only the 2 of you can talk. They can also buy a time bank. For example, one dude offered me $20 for 10 minutes. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually very straightforward. I make about $40 or $50 every night, and I only spend an hour or 2 on there. I'm starting to think I could make a living between that and this office gig, and, to be honest, what's wrong with making money this way? If guys want to pay to watch me jerk off or strip down, so be it. The part that worries me is being sad while I do it. As long as I'm in control and stable, I don't care what others might say, because no one needs to find out. So, yeah, things aren't on the up and up per se, but I'm feeling better every day. Nat and I haven't texted since the breakup, and that definitely fucks with my mind at times. There's a part of me that still believes we're meant for each other. But all I need to make it better are these distractions. Poker, writing, modeling, and weed, of course.
I talked a little bit about what feeling and processing your emotions actually looks like a few chapters ago, and this is just another great example of a time where I was avoiding that. And it's the danger that you run is specifically with a relationship. When you break up with someone, or when a relationship ends and a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and the whole time you really want to get back together with the person, if you're like me, right? If you're codependent and you have low self-esteem. And what's important is that if you're not processing your emotions and you're just avoiding the pain that you're feeling or that you're not feeling, anytime the opportunity arises for you to get back together with this person who you have confirmed is not the right individual for you, because you haven't processed any of your emotions, you're going to still view that as the answer and the way to move forward. And so it's just an important thing to know about yourself and to understand is that your emotions truly dictate or how much you process of your how much your emotions you allow yourself to process truly dictates what actions and decisions you make in your life, whether you're aware of it or not. And so even though it can seem abstract sometimes, right? Like, how do I feel my emotions? Again, it's the same thing. For me in this case, it would have been, instead of finding this hobby of Texas Hold'em and webcamming and all of these distractions, which I call them that for a very specific reason, instead of just finding these things to distract myself, it is to be home and to feel the emptiness that I was feeling with a romantic partner, because that is often why we get into these bad relationships in the first place, is because there's just time that we don't really account for, and we just assume, like, okay, well, I guess that means that I should get into a relationship so that I can fill that time, right? And then when we break up, all of that time opens up again, and we don't know how to fill it, because that's the wrong way, the wrong frame to place the situation in. It's like, you're not supposed to fill the time just because it opened up for you. It opened up, and now there is time for you to process emotions that you weren't processing before. And so it's just something that I've learned. I don't think that it works the same for everybody. I'm not gonna throw a blanket statement out there like that, but I know that it's worked for me. And if it's hard for you not to think about it in a different way that isn't filling my time, then you can at least fill that time with activities or with support groups that allow you to process emotions that may otherwise be too hard for you to process on your own. Because that's a totally valid argument too. It's like, okay, well, sometimes we know what we're supposed to do, and it's just too hard for us to do it alone. In that case, fill up all your time, but make sure that the things you are filling it up with are conducive to your recovery, emotional or physical, or, whatever type of struggle that you're going through, that the activities that you're filling it with are helping you and not just distracting you.
Day 177. Penny, my friend from the camping trip, texts me this morning and tells me she broke up with Ben. She sends me one of those 10-paragraph messages that take forever to scroll through. After a while of back and forth, we stop texting. I reach out to Ben and ask if he wants to hang out tonight, hoping he won't see through my invite and realize that I know he's devastated. He doesn't text back till the evening, but when he does, he's eager to do something crazy. Though we're not super close, he invites me over to his apartment. He says he wants to pregame there for a costume-themed concert. I don't ask what the theme is because it's not like I have costumes lying around, and instead, I throw on a blue button-down, short-sleeved t-shirt with white lobsters drawn all over, my leather boat shoes, and tan, well-fitted cargo shorts. If anyone asks what my costume is, I'll say, I'm a frat douche. At the apartment, I meet his roommate, Sabrina, and the three of us Uber to the concert venue. There's a line outside when we get there, so we stand in it, and when we get to the front, right as we're about to go in, the bouncer says they're at capacity and can't allow anyone else in for the rest of the night. Want to go to Rainy? Sabrina asks. The first bar we go to on Rainy is called Unbarleavable. It has a circus theme and drunk people everywhere. One girl tugs at my arm as we're walking towards the outside patio. You're cute, she says. Want to buy my friend a drink? Your friend? What friend? She pulls me toward a group of 3 other girls, all of them late 20s looking and fucking stunning. Every single one of them looks like they tan in their sleep and wake up with perfect hair. Our friend Jenna wants you to buy her a drink. I look at Jenna. Her eyes are barely open. Do you all work together or something? Yeah, we're celebrating Jenna's birthday. Where do you work? None, yo, she says. None yo. None of yo fucking business. Are you gonna buy me a drink or what? My chest feels heavy and my cheeks blush. I look like a fool trying to talk to these girls, and everyone can see it. But I don't know how to navigate the situation, so I just kind of walk away from the group and find my friends again. You guys want to get out of here? I ask. I just made a fool of myself. Sabrina laughs. Ben says, yeah, let's go somewhere we can all talk. So we find a booth inside a different bar and finally talk about the breakup. I steer the conversation away from Penny every now and then to ask Sabrina questions and get to know her better. She's short and stocky, but her face is smooth like pear skin. She has big eyes that give away how sexual she is. Even with how low my self-esteem has been, I can tell she at least wants to make out by the end of the night. So I keep asking her and Ben questions, trying to keep them both satisfied. After we finish our third drink, Sabrina asks, have y'all ever been to Barb's? Ben and I look at each other for confirmation, but neither of us has. Let's go, she says. I shrug and so does Ben. So we leave whatever hipster fucking bar we were in and head somewhere called Barb's. As we walk along Red River, Sabrina sticks close to me and starts asking me questions. Ben texts Penny, probably hoping that she'll take him back. I can tell he's drinking to forget tonight. Like maybe tomorrow he'll wake up and Penny will be in bed with him, naked or something. When we get to Barb's, Sabrina drags us through the bar and toward the dance floor. Ben and I look at each other. Beer? I ask. Beer, he says. We leave Sabrina alone and go by 3 tall boys of Lone Star. She's sweating her ass off on the dance floor when we find her again. Her fat ass grinds into someone that's twice my size, while he covers her mouth and face with one hand. The back of her head reaches only about as high as his waist, so really she's grinding her head into his cock. Sweat drips from his mane onto her face. They dance like they're the only 2 people here, rubbing together and becoming one big blob of gross. Sabrina looks faded, different than she did 10 minutes ago. Ben holds on to her tall boy and dances alongside me. I'm drunk enough that I don't mind dancing, and I'm dressed like a douche, so I might as well play the part. Barb's reminds me of the smallest nightclub in Cancun. They play all the classics. Beyonce, Journey, Bee Gees. 2 beers later, I'm making eyes with a tatted-up girl in a tank top and dancing like I'm Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. She gets closer and whispers in my ear, I'm Vicky. I spin her into my frenzy and say, I'm Nick. Let's dance. Ben and I make eye contact and smile at each other. I feel on top of the world dancing with a girl like Vicky. My mind's running 1,000 miles an hour because I'm not even aware of my surroundings now. All I'm thinking is that it's going to happen tonight. Vicky and I are going to fuck harder than we're dancing. How could I have ever thought Nat was the right one for me? All it took was one night out for 2 girls to hit on me. 2 incredibly beautiful girls, nonetheless. I'm finally batting my average. Vicky and I are both pleasantly surprised when the lights come on after the last song. She offers her number and says, I have to take my friend home, but text me. I will. We all stumble out to the street, unable to hide in the darkness any longer. Sabrina's being carried away, literally, by that Tarzan dude, when Ben asks if he should do anything. I don't want to cockblock, but I don't know that she's really sober enough to be going home with him. He looks like he's slowly going to boil her in stew so he can serve her to his animal kingdom, I say to make Vicky laugh. She does. Then she rushes toward Tarzan and has a quick conversation that ends up with Sabrina coming back to us and Tarzan drifting into his post-ecstasy night or whatever. Vicky's friend bumps into her and says, We have to go. Come on, let's go. Text me, she says. It was nice meeting you. Good night. Are you all right? Ben asked Sabrina. We didn't cockblock you, did we? Ugh, no. That guy wouldn't get off me. You saved me. I look at Sabrina like, hey, it's the end of the night. At least we've still got each other? She looks back at me like, you might be in luck. But we both play it cool till we get back to their apartment. Ben tells me I'm welcome to crash on the couch and goes up to his room. He's too drunk to drive me home. Sabrina and I cuddle on the couch for 10 minutes, talking about nothing. I think I'm going to head upstairs. You can sleep in my bed. You don't have to stay down here. I follow her upstairs and into her bed and into her mouth with my tongue. She puts my cock in her mouth, her sweaty hair glued to my hairy legs. I moan and say, oh yeah, a bunch. Then she slides me inside her and rides me like I'm that Tarzan dude. My cock's so hard and I'm so drunk that I make her come 3 times before exploding into her. I don't even care that I'm not wearing a condom because she smiles when I do and lets out a sigh of relief. One of these days it's going to catch up to me, man. Sabrina rolls off of me and starts petting my chest. I haven't come like that in years, she whispers. I just sort of laugh and say, yeah, that was crazy. Then I stare at the ceiling and think about my cum dripping out of her as I fall asleep. Day 179. I managed to drag this old fucking guy away from the modeling site and onto Skype instead. I'm sick of giving away part of my cut just to use the chat rooms, and he's agreed to pay me a ridiculous amount of money, so getting banned from the site doesn't really worry me. Alex stares at me in disbelief. Anyway, I've only modeled for him once, but I made $250, Alex. And he wants to chat at least once a week, which means I'm set as far as work goes. I can tell it bothers Alex that I'm making more money per hour showing off my body than she is with her psychology degree. She's going to try and convince me to stop. She'll probably approach it from a moralistic standpoint. I'm just sure of it from the look on her face. Don't ever believe that shit about therapists being objective listeners. They're human beings like the rest of us. All you have to do is say the right or wrong thing and they'll react like worried parents. That's a lot of money, she finally says. I know, right? I can't believe someone's willing to throw away that much just to see my dumb face. Is that the only thing you show him? Huh? She stops to reconsider. I'm curious to know more about what you do for him, because you're right, that is a lot of money to pay someone for 1 hour of their time. Oh, well, I pretty much just talked with him for an hour. Like, he asked me to undress at one point, but that's as far as it went. He says he likes to start out slow. So he's done this before. Yeah, that's what we talked about. Apparently the last kid he was seeing ditched him and broke his heart. But he has a wife, so, like, he's fine. A wife? And you're okay with that? It's not like I'm ever gonna meet with him in person or anything. He lives in the Midwest. Does she know about your arrangement with him? I don't think so. Are you worried about where this could lead? Skeptical at all? No, 'cause, like, if you talk to him, you'd understand that he's not a creep or anything. He's just a lonely old man who happens to like young boys and have a lot of money. All he wants is some company, someone that'll listen to him like you listen to me. Her emotions display in a furrowing of the brows. I'd like to make the distinction that what you're doing and what I'm doing are not the same thing. Sure, not exactly, but I don't think it's that far off. People carry around so many stigmas these days, it's incredible. Online dating is for losers. Working the counter is a dead-end job. Porn actors are dead inside. It's all bullshit if you ask me. Everyone just wants to feel better about themselves by labeling others as less than. No one cares to understand anymore. If you're addicted to something, people tell you to get your act together or go burn in hell. All of these things are human. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. Do you feel like I understand? Honestly, no. I started therapy because I knew everyone in my life would judge me for all of this. And now, well, I get that you're looking out for me, but really it just feels like you're passing judgment too. Like you're my mom and I've just told you I smoked meth for the first time. She writes in her notebook longer than she ever has before. I hear you, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to try and explain. I shrug my shoulders. I think sometimes it can be hard as a therapist to know when you should be worried and when you should empathize. It's one of the muddiest areas in psychology. If someone comes in to talk about suicidal feelings, you don't want to overreact immediately because that'll just scare the person away, but you also don't want to encourage this behavior by engaging in conversation that glorifies it. The fact that she's comparing this to suicidal behavior right now is so fucking stupid. My chest feels like a wildfire. I'm so enraged. There's no way I can continue to listen to this bitch, so I try hard to focus on the details of her face, the fact that prior to us meeting she was just an image on my computer, or the fact that I've masturbated thinking of her. Despite her fighting me on this, I know for a fact she's gotta be as smart as they come. And I really would give anything to be her age and have met her at a park or some shit. The thought of being with her outside of this fucking room, holding hands or having sex in her bedroom, well, it just feels like it would fix everything, you know? If only there was a way to make that happen, then I'd for sure stop all of these habits she keeps telling me are bad for me. And I also want to make it clear that you have made a lot of progress coming here. She keeps saying that, but I know she's trying to get me to come back and keep giving her my money. I nod my head a couple of times and continue pretending to listen. Then time runs out and we set our next appointment. Day 182. Sabrina picks me up from my apartment after work at the office. It's peak sun time and we're going to the Greenbelt with my brother's dog Bailey. I'm sorry Lola wasn't able to come. That's okay. Did something happen or were you just not able to coordinate a time with her owners? I fell asleep when I was supposed to pick her up, but they said I can still see her this week. It just won't be today. Well, that's too bad, but at least you'll see her. When we get to the bottom of the Greenbelt where the water normally is, we find a dry hole with murky, still water. I let Bailey off leash and watch as she darts for the puddles and gulps a few of them down. You know you're not supposed to let dogs drink still water, right? I call Bailey back and leash her again. She barks at me and Sabrina. The three of us walk along the trails in search of real water we can swim in, or at least let Bailey swim in until we reach a dead end. I guess we're not going to find any today, I say. Do you want to drop Bailey off and go somewhere else? I don't have work today, so I'm free the rest of the day. Sure, let's do that. I towel Bailey off as best I can and get in the car. On the drive back to my place, we try to figure out where that somewhere else could be. Do you know anywhere that has good boba tea? Sabrina asks. I don't think I do. Maybe we can grab lunch? Or get a drink? A million thoughts come up for me just then. It hasn't been very long since we started seeing each other, but already I'm thinking there might not be much chemistry. Yeah, we've had sex every day since that night at Barb's, and she probably has enough of my cum inside her to build my clone and tell me to fuck off, but now she's starting to ask me out on real dates. Next thing I know, she'll want me to meet her friends or go to a work happy hour. I like it better when we just go to each other's apartments and talk and fuck and talk and then fuck some more. Can it not just continue to be that for her? I mean, it's been what, 5 days? What's with me finding all these girls that keep over-attaching? You know, if it's okay with you, I think I might just go home and get some rest. Oh, she says. Yeah, it's no problem. I'll drop you off. I feel like shit for saying that to her, but I know that continuing to see her under these conditions wouldn't make her happy either. I just wish there was a way for both of us to be happy with this decision, because I hate that I made her feel bad just now. It takes another 10 minutes for us to get there, and the entire time I'm thinking of some topic of conversation that'll ease the tension but in no way indicate that I still have an interest in seeing her. When she parks the car for me to get out, what I say is, I'll text you this week so we can hang out again soon. Yeah, that sounds nice. Bailey and I walk away from Sabrina, unaware that winter awaits us. For Bailey that means going back in the cage for 6 hours. For me it means reaching out to Frank on Skype and putting on a show.
It's been a theme in my romantic life to find women that in the chapter I describe it as over-attached, but really what it is, what I've learned 2 years, 3 years after the events of the book and a year after I wrote it, is that it's not that they over-attach, that is a symptom of something greater, and what that greater thing is just that my subconscious gravitates toward women who have very low self-esteem, because I can then, I can see them as sort of a project, and I know how bad that sounds, but it's the truth of how my experience has been. My defenses are so strong against myself and me doing work on myself that when I meet somebody who is, well put together, my ego tells me, well, that's not going to allow us to focus on someone else, because they don't really, they've got their own shit handled. They don't need our help. But if we find somebody with low self-esteem who does over-attach and who's very insecure, and well, then that's somebody that we can start to help, right, or to take care of, because really that's the key word for me has been caretaker, filling the caretaker role as a way to avoid confronting my own insecurities, and even outside of just personal ones, but like in relationships, I have been very possessive and controlling, and I have a hard time sort of budging on things that I want. And so if I find somebody that's really insecure, well then, it's an easier way to get into something toxic. And our minds and our egos have a way of identifying these things even when we don't really identify them, So I could be going into a relationship with somebody thinking like, this person's so well put together and they really understand themselves. But really that's just, I'm choosing to see that because I'm being fooled by myself into old behaviors and old patterns.
Day 184. I don't know how, but I find myself at a poetry slam with Sabrina, ordering fries, 2 shots of tequila, and 2 beers. Not only is she excited to be hanging out again, she's eager for the slam to start. All I'm looking forward to is the part after the slam where we go back to my place and have sex. It's the only reason I agreed to come out tonight. That and the fact that I had nothing else going on and I knew staying home meant only bad things would happen. We sit down as the hosts introduce the first poet. Straight out of Austin, Texas, they announce, as if they're not all going to be local poets. Please welcome to the stage, Juan Carlos! Everyone applauds. Juan Carlos walks on stage holding a wrinkled up piece of paper. He starts, People are born and then they die. People say their last goodbyes. My mother abused me when I was 5. I burst into laughter. Sabrina slaps me on the knee. No one else laughs. Now every night I roll the die. All I can think is to float to the sky. And when I don't, I just cry. Realizing where I am, I tone down the volume but can't help myself from continuing to laugh. It's not that Juan Carlos isn't in pain. It's just that every person in this room is taking themselves way too seriously. I hear sniffling all around. Then there's applause and people yelling about how brave that was. I must be insane because all I can think is how fucking stupid this whole event is. Maybe if humor was injected into the room, everyone would stop feeling so goddamn sad, so sensitive. Every poet that follows Juan Carlos is as miserable as the last. They talk about abuse, suicidal thoughts, struggling with depression by eating cartons of M&Ms for breakfast and learning to accept that as normal behavior. I almost wish I was up next so I could improvise a poem and piss everyone off. But instead I just sit there, laughing, drunk, noticing Sabrina smiling at me every time I laugh. Even she can't hold it in anymore. It's in the way they read these poems, too, all dramatic with expressive faces and whatnot. It makes me feel claustrophobic being around so many brave little warriors. I don't think we need more people being rewarded for losing. Give yourself a pat on the back, 'cause you rule. All you did was write a poem and read it out loud to a bunch of other depressed loners. In the car on the way back, Sabrina asks what I kept laughing at. Was it not obvious, I say? I mean, come on! Is that how you cope with negative emotions? You just laugh? I want to open the door and fling my face onto the pavement just so I don't have to go down this conversation hole. You might want to explore this side of you. It's not good to put up walls like that. Oh, please. You're not serious, are you? No one else was laughing. And that means I'm wrong too? Just because everyone in that room chose to be miserable tonight doesn't mean I should too. You call being brave miserable? I laugh. You're doing it again, she says. You're right. I'm sorry for trying to have a good time tonight. The tension builds faster and faster, neither one of us speaking now. We drive the rest of the way in silence. When we get to my place, I still invite her in because now that I'm angry, I know I'll enjoy fucking her more. And to my surprise, she agrees to it. The coming in and the fucking. The whole 9 yards. And the sex is great. Until it ends and she falls asleep in a puddle of my sweat. I go to the bathroom to clean her off of me and look in the mirror. My cock's still hard. I look good naked. Morning comes and Sabrina goes. The phone rings. Mom's calling. We haven't spoken since the whole dinner debacle. I pick up. Hearing her voice again feels weird. It's become difficult for me to see and think of her as my mother. The only visual of her I have left is from when I turned around to yell at her that things aren't always about her. She was crying. Panicking, really. It reminded me of breaking up with my high school girlfriend at 3 a.m. in a foreign state when she dropped down to her knees and said she wasn't going to move unless I took it back. Sure, it was dangerous leaving her there, sobbing on the sidewalk of a poorly lit street, but she was no longer my responsibility. The same goes for my mom, except that she was never my responsibility, and her throwing a fit like that was a perfect reminder of how selfish she is. But we still talk, try to at least. What starts out as an attempt to understand one another quickly turns into stubborn arguing. She defends her point of view, and I defend mine, both of us thrown back to that night, to those feelings. I don't tell her that it wasn't all internal, that I was hurt when they passed on my suggestion for going to an improv show. I don't tell her that I was enraged because of how little they seemed to care about getting to know Austin from my point of view. And I don't tell her that when she and my sister decided to go shopping at an antiques bazaar, instead of finding something all 4 of us could enjoy, I felt forgotten about. The same way I felt forgotten when I found out at 17 that my parents had been separated from the time I was 4 or 5. I still don't fucking know. When I asked my siblings about it, they laughed and said, "You didn't know?" Maybe now I can look back and I too can laugh. I'd moved to a different country and left my dad behind for a year. Then I moved back in with him and lost my mom for the rest of middle and high school. It should have been obvious, and part of me knew, okay, clearly my parents don't live together anymore. They must not like each other. But my mom convinced me that the reason we were leaving Mexico was because her teaching job at the high school turned into a nightmare. She couldn't stand it any longer. So maybe mom and dad were just deciding it was best for their relationship if mom followed her dreams elsewhere. I know it sounds goofy to hear that, but I was 11, man. I wasn't supposed to know what a healthy relationship looked like. And because my parents never sat me down to talk about it, I isolated myself for the next 7 years. I dated several girls they never found out about because I was afraid of what they would think. I found dead cigarettes and ashes floating in my mom's toilet, even though I'd never seen her smoke a cigarette in my life. One summer break, I visited my dad and watched him and a woman's silhouette scream at each other outside my brother's bedroom window. I still don't know whose silhouette that was. I watched everyone get better and better at keeping secrets and learned to keep my own. Often I would get home from school hours before my mom and my brother. I had the house to myself and loved using that time to explore my sexuality. I put a tampon up my ass one day and watched it pull out blood when I came. I wore my mom's heels and thought of what it would be like to be a woman, to be wanted so easily. When my brother and I moved back to Cancun, I started masturbating on camera for strange men all over the world. I slept in the same bed as my dad, but had my own area of the apartment during the day. It was the first thing you saw when you walked in, so the masturbating happened late at night, after both of them were sound asleep. It was a learning process, but eventually I found a chat room for gay men. You were allowed to create your own username and short bio. Mine would always be, "Young boy seeks daddy or master." Dozens of men would message me as soon as I joined the chat, all of them asking the same thing. How old was I? At first I lied and said I was 18 because I knew I'd get away with it. Then one night someone asked if I was really 18, said it was okay if I was younger. So I told the truth. I told him I was 13. Just what I was looking for, he wrote. After that I gave him my Skype name and let him boss me around through text. Take off your clothes. I looked over at the rest of the apartment. No door in my area to give me privacy. I took my clothes off and immediately got hard. Start touching yourself. I started rubbing my cock up and down. 10 minutes passed. Are you close? I told him I was. I want you to come in your mouth. I was one of the smartest kids in my physics class, but when he asked me to do that, I had no idea of where to start. So I asked him for help. Find a wall. I found a wall. Point the camera at the wall. Okay. Stand on your head with your ass against the wall and aim for your mouth. I looked around the apartment again, dead quiet. All one of them had to do was get up to pee and they would find me naked, jerking off in front of my computer camera. How would I explain that? It didn't matter. That wasn't going to happen. The adrenaline was too much for rational thought to stop me. So I sat with my ass against the wall and pulled myself up with my feet, inch by inch, until I was high enough that my head was resting on the pillow I'd propped on the floor. Blood rushed to my face. My cock was throbbing. My audience was pleased, rewarding me with degrading insults about what a little slut I was. But they were here with me. They wanted focused alone time with me the way none of my other family members did. I felt so strong and in control knowing how much they wanted me. I closed my eyes to avoid getting cum in them and opened my mouth and came all over my face and neck. It was the first time I tried my own cum. I got off the wall and back to a normal seating position. I cleaned my face with a rag. Every time was slightly different than the last because every man has different fetishes. Some wanted me to take my time stripping. Some liked it when I used my microphone to talk like a submissive boy should. But all of them ended the conversation the same way. As soon as I came, they would come too, and then disconnect right after. I never knew if I would see them again until the next time they reached out to me, and by then I almost always had someone else in line. When I got all the cum off and finally opened my eyes again, the call had ended. So when I realized my mom isn't listening to me, I end the call and go searching on Craigslist for someone who will.
So this is probably one of the heaviest chapters to re-listen to. And maybe it doesn't capture quite what my memory actually is. But, when I'm talking about how these guys that I would chat with behaved and, what those interactions were like, what might not be clear is that this is something that happened from the age of 13 onward until about, until the events of the book, and on and off, right? But I was very lonely when I was growing up. My mother moved to when we moved back to Mexico. My brother and I, my mom stayed in San Francisco, and so we lived with my dad. and my sister had moved to the US as well. So it was just us three men. And my dad, Mexican fathers aren't traditionally very affectionate or very nurturing, and they also are their values are more 1950s traditional, like putting a roof over your head and making sure you've got enough food and money for school and all of the material goods, which my father did a great job of. But as a 13-year-old kid going through all of middle school and high school, pretty much raising myself, because after 8th grade, my brother moved to the US too. He graduated high school. And so, I was basically my own parent from a very early age, and I didn't do a good job of it. And that's something that is, you can't say that it's my fault, but it is something that's difficult to accept for me. Is like, okay, my parents didn't do a great job of parenting me, but at the end of the day, I also feel shame that I didn't do a good job of parenting myself. And you're not supposed to be a good parent, right? But there are those emotions attached to what I perceived as failure, and perceived as failure because I was surviving. I needed nurturing, and I needed love, and I needed attention, and because I wasn't getting it, I was afraid to get it from girls at school or from friends at school, or that was limited. I went to extreme measures, and so there was this development that turned into sort of me allowing myself to be sexually abused for the next 6, 7, 8 years of my life. Well, no, 6, at a certain age, I guess it stops, but really you're just reenacting the trauma, so it doesn't really. But so yeah, I just wanted to make a point that this is something that I was doing regularly, and I was doing it because I was getting attention from somewhere, and so to me, that was like bliss, because my dad was busy working. My brother was busy living his own teenage life, and when I wasn't spending time with my friends, I craved interaction, and there were these men that not only were willing to spend the time with me, but that saw me as something to treasure almost. And I know that sounds twisted now when you hear it and when you think about it. I see how twisted it is, but to a 13-year-old's mind and emotions, that's there is no context for that. And so it does, it is something that's really hard to hear read back to me, but it's also something that is very true, and that happens to a lot of us, whether it's sexual or not. A lot of us spend our time seeking validation or attention through social media and interaction on those networks. It just so happened that it became a sexual thing for me, and that only furthered my view of myself as shameful and almost like Catholic guilt, like a sinner, because I put everybody around me on a pedestal, even though after years I have now learned that a lot of my classmates had similar situations where parents were alcoholics or drug addicts or abusive to them. These aren't things that you talk about when you're in grade school or high school, and So I would put everybody around me on a pedestal and say, well, everybody else is normal, but I'm doing this really fucked up thing, so I must be fucked up and I must be abnormal. And so that's, that just enhances those narratives of, now it's not only my parents who don't love me or who I see myself as unlovable because of, now it's everybody else in my life that I'm comparing myself to. And that's a very difficult thing to deal with when you're parenting yourself and you don't really have anybody to talk to about it. Nobody that you believe will understand, at least.
Day 187. Now that enough time and mistakes have passed, I'm starting to feel single again. I know there's nothing left to explore with Sabrina, and I don't think I'll text her again. I also know from talking to Alex yesterday that maybe now is the best time to see out this Craigslist thing I have going on. She seems to think it a good idea for me to explore this part of my sexuality, instead of boxing it into some behavior issue that stems from my relationship with my family. But she doesn't like how dangerous this whole internet search can become, so she suggests that I go to gay bars, or download gay dating apps. It's too bad she doesn't know I went straight from therapy to a strange Craigslist man's cock. I told her that the thought of going on a date with another man doesn't do much for me. I'm not interested in getting to know these dudes, I said. I just like how it feels being the object of their burning desire. That shit doesn't exist in the real world. If all it takes for me to get over the shame of the act is a few hours of sleep, then so be it. I'll keep finding these guys, giving them what they want, and getting nothing in return. That's where my self-esteem is at, so why pretend that it's not? The office at Start Life is quiet today. The usual suspects didn't come in, so there's nobody arguing in the desk next to mine. My back's against a wall, which means I have all the privacy I need to take a video call from Frank. Even if I didn't, I still risk it for $250. Not because I need it, just because it gives me an excuse to do it, I tell myself it's for the money, even though my bank account says the opposite. Frank smiles when he sees my video feed turn on. I smile when I check my PayPal and find the $250 in my account. He thinks the microphone on my computer is broken, so I text, and he talks into my earphones. "I've missed you," he says. "I've missed you too. My wife will be home soon. I might have to disconnect for a moment when she does. That's okay. How have things been between you two?" "She's as clueless as always." "What do you mean?" "We're making tomato soup for dinner and having some friends over. She's happy." "But you're not?" "How could I be? My entire life is built upon lies." "Same. It's hard living like that. I understand. How is yours the same?" "I mean, I'm sure they're different in some ways. I'm not trying to undermine how stressed out you are. I just mean that I lie to people every day too." "What do you lie about?" "Nobody knows that I talk to you, or that I've been with men before." "Do they know you're gay?" "Well, I don't actually think I'm gay." "Then why do you talk to me? And why have you been with men?" "It makes me feel good to have people in my life that want to spend time with me. When I was younger, I was once in your spot. I thought for the longest time that I wasn't interested in men. I got married and had kids. Then I met Gabriel at a party." "Your best friend, Gabriel?" "Precisely. We were both in Nashville for business. We did a bunch of drugs, and then he fucked me in a public bathroom." "Wow. What happened after that?" "I kept seeing him for months. We found reasons to visit each other and kept it a secret from our wives. It was like I'd found what I'd been looking for my whole life." "Is it still ongoing?" "Gabriel's dead now." "I'm sorry to hear that." "It's okay. He died of a heart attack 20 years ago. My point is, your confusion will eventually clear up about men. You'll learn to accept that it's all right being more than just friends with them. Just don't make the same mistake I did and get married before then." I want to fight back and tell him that he's wrong, but I don't. I nod my head and tell him that he's probably right. I want him to think that I'm attracted to him, that it's not just about the money and the company. "Maggie's home. Just a sec." Frank takes his headset off and looks up at someone, startled. I see the light from the screen disappear from his face. He clicked off of Skype's bright white display. "Will you make sure the kitchen's clean by tonight?" I hear his wife say. "Yes, honey. How is everything at the store?" "Good. People are going to be here by 6, so we'll want to start cooking by 4. I forgot a few things, so I have to go back out right away, but I'll be back in an hour or so." "Okay. Good luck." Maggie leaves. Frank puts his headset back on. "We have time," he says. "How soon can you get home?" 20 minutes? Make it 15 and be ready to play. Day 190. I don't need another job, but I got one working sous chef at a Thai food truck. I've been a customer of theirs for almost a year now, so when I saw the opening, I figured, why the hell not? I get to make my all-time favorite food alongside the chef who invented the recipes? Count me in. Being here for my first training shift, I have to admit I'm nervous as hell. The owners, Dusty and Malai, haven't had much success with their hires, so I feel pressured not to let them down. I always feel this way when I start a new job, like, I don't want my bosses to think I'm a slacker. But I shouldn't be great at something I just started learning. I need to remember that. Since I arrived 30 minutes ago, they've taught me how to prepare their Thai iced tea, cut chicken into thumb-sized slices, dice cherry tomatoes into 3 parts each, peel basil leaves, and rinse and wash dishes. Pain is shooting up my lower back, and the cooking hasn't even started. Dusty goes around the front of the truck to turn the menus around and put out the open sign. He comes around back before opening the windows and says, "Malai, we have a line." Then he opens the window and a line of 10 people appears. The reason they started me today was because they were expecting it to be slow. 10 people right as you open is not slow, but all I can do is hope for the best. Malai starts giving me instructions as Dusty mans the register. Her instructions pile on top of one another, and before long I'm creating mental lists of all that she wants me to do. Put water in 2 pots and set them on the fire. Grab the raw meat bucket and place 2 spoons of pork in 1 pot. Put the meat bucket away. Wash your hands. Grab the raw chicken tray and put 2 spoons of it in the other pot. Put the chicken tray away. I need a water and 2 sparkling lime. Grab the water and 2 sparkling lime. Did you wash your hands? No, sorry. Wash your hands. It's fine, I got it. Okay, turn the grill on. Get me more eggs. Grab the raw skewer tray. Set 4 skewers down diagonally on the grill. Lower the fire. Turn up the fire. Make sure the skewers don't burn. Dusty, will you show him what the skewer need to look like? I'm busy, Malai. He's got it. Flip the skewers every 5 to 10 seconds so they cook evenly. How is chicken going to cook if no fire on? Apologize for forgetting to turn the fire on. Tell people it's going to be our way. I can't do this shit alone. Sweat drips from my chin in my t-shirt. I think of all the jobs I've had before this one. The smell in the truck makes my stomach growl. The last food truck job I worked allowed us to eat on the fly, which means as we cook we can throw pieces of food in our mouth or build small plates and take bites every 5 seconds. There's none of that here. I don't even want to ask for a bottle of water. Working here is already a nightmare. I feel for all of the Mexicans who move to the U.S. and end up at jobs like this one. The rest of my shift continues to worsen. By the end of lunch, I'm covered in sweat, my body still heating up in this 120-degree oven we're in. Dusty says, "How'd it feel?" That's about as busy as it gets for a Thursday, but weekend nights are crazy. As long as I'm helping and not getting in the way. No, I mean, it's your first day, man. Once you get the hang of things, it won't feel as intense. He looks over at Malai, then back at me. Do you want some pad? I'd love some. Malai, can we get him some pad before he leaves? She scoffs, but gets it anyway. Here you go, Nikki. I'm very generous, she says as she gives me half the serving of a normal order of pad. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow? Dusty asks. You will, I say. Thanks for the food. Then I carry my food to the bench where my bike is locked and eat it there, my clothes absorbing the sweat from my body now that they've dried some. I'm not sure about this job, but I don't have other leads to go on except for Frank and Start Life, and those don't seem like long-term options. But this hell doesn't either. I can't possibly work here week in and week out, being yelled at and treated like help. It's just that now I kinda have to. At least it feels that way. I either have to work for them or never come back to eat their food. Those are my only 2 options. And there's no fucking way I'm going to give up this pad. Day 193. Sunday morning cripples me. I've worked at the truck every day this weekend, lunch and dinner. I also worked my regular office hours and put on another show for Frank. There's been 0 time for writing, 0 time to process any of what I've been doing. It's like my mind's found a way to avoid all the negative feelings and go into autopilot, sweating, making lists of all of Malai's instructions, repeating those lists back to me after I leave work because hearing her yell at me isn't something I forget about when I leave the truck. It frustrates the hell out of me. Weirdly, I'm also thinking about Nat a lot this morning. We still haven't texted since the breakup, so by now I'm ending my phase of denial. Trying to, at least, because something about this job makes me feel like reaching out to her again. I just know how much easier everything would be if we were together again. Leaving Sim Sim wouldn't be so devastating if I knew Nat was waiting for me at home, ready to cuddle and fuck and watch a movie or something. But I know the odds aren't in my favor that she'll respond positively to my text. I'm fighting so hard to not hit the send button that I need constant distractions to engage with. After my shower, I eat breakfast and watch videos on my computer. When I finish eating, continuing to watch videos seems boring and pointless. I open Microsoft Word and stare at a blank page. I haven't written a single word this entire week. I need to write 4 more short stories to finish my newest collection, 9 Incarnations of Night. So far, I've written 5. I can tell my new material is good, so if nothing comes, I don't force it. And nothing comes, so I close my laptop and stare at my phone instead. It's almost time for work. I browse through my pictures and find a folder labeled Nat and I. The first picture shows her face up close, lying on my bed looking adorable as always. Her smile is what gets me. Makes me cry, I mean. By the time I reach the end of the folder, I'm weeping on my closet floor, using an old t-shirt to wipe my face. If I want to make the bus in time, I need to leave in 10 minutes. So I give myself 5 more minutes to cry, but when those are up, I still can't fucking stop. It's like decades of repressed tears are finally flowing out of me, and I keep looking at pictures to cry harder, wishing I had the day to myself. I use my last 5 minutes to get dressed and bike ready. Luckily my brother's not home, so I don't have to worry about him seeing me like this on the way out. I just need to worry about how I'm going to compose myself before work. Before leaving the apartment, I grab my bike helmet and hide it in my bedroom. I don't want to wear it today in case of an accident. If there's any way I can increase the chances of an easy out like being hit by a car, I'll do it. That's one option that really feels like it would solve a lot of my problems. And it wouldn't look selfish the way suicide sometimes can, 'cause no one would know I wanted it to happen. Soft wind blows on my face and tries to dry out my tears as I rush to the bus stop. They fight back and pour out harder. As I get on the bus, I pull my hoodie over my head and tuck my face down to avoid eye contact with other miserable fucks. Then I sit and cry into it until the bell goes off for my exit. From there I bike another 5 minutes to the food truck and find a bench a block away, somewhere no one can see what a mess I am. I pour cold water over my face and immediately get angry at myself for it. The crying stops, though. Enough is enough, I think. Yes, I'm alone and sad and downright pointlessly living my life. But unless I want to lose my job and forfeit an income that allows me a place to cry in private, I need to push through this. It's what I wanted, isn't it? I'm doing it. I'm out here all on my own, in the real world. Now's the time to prove myself. It's the first time in recent memory that the voice in my head sounds encouraging. I guess all it takes is a little bit of darkness and having no other options. Even though I do have options. I could throw it all away and really go for broke. So there's still light to be found in the madness. Less than a glimmer, maybe. But there is light to be found. Day 203. I'm starting to settle into a neat routine with work and Frank and trying out this whole online poker thing again. I go to the office and play from 9 to 11. At 11:30, I ride my bike from the office to the food truck for my 11:45 shift. We open the truck at noon and close it again at 3, at which point I either return to the office in my soaking wet clothes and wait for my kickboxing class at 5, or go home and play poker instead. This morning, I'm on a roll. I've built up my $50 into over $800 in the course of 2 weeks, and I'm about to add another $200 when this hand is over. The high is unreal. The last time I crossed the $1,000 mark on a poker site was when I turned 16 and played under my dad's email address and name. I lost every penny of it the following day. My hand holds up and I take home the first place prize in a 27-player sit-and-go tournament. My account total reads $1,001.84. I could quit my job at SimSim and focus full-time on this poker thing, use the office as my home base and keep Frank on the side just in case, because why turn down free money? My hands start to shake and sweat. My mind is spinning. Fuck everyone who doubted me. I made it. I knew I was meant to play poker professionally. Even out of practice I play better than most, and these $1,000 proves it. I snap pictures of the amount and send them to anyone that ever knew me as a poker player. I want them to see what I've accomplished. Then I join a cash game with $150 on the table. I'm dealt aces on the big blind. The button raises. The small blind calls. I re-raise. The button folds. The small blind moves all in. He has me covered. I snap call. He shows a pair of kings, and of course, the river is a king. My anger spikes to a 10 as I immediately rebuy for another $150. The same dude from the last hand raises on the button this time. I re-raise from the small blind with an ace and a king. The big blind calls. Button calls. The flop comes ace 10-4 rainbow. I'm first to act, so I bet to represent exactly what I have, hoping they'll read me as bluffing. Big blind folds. Button calls. The turn is another ace. I check. He bets. I call. The river shows a blank. I bet. He puts me all in. I snap call. He shows tens full of aces. My face turns red and I slam shut the laptop. $300 disappeared from my account in a matter of minutes. I feel hopeless, like the only thing that can save me is making my money back and some more on top of that. I tell myself the only option is to double down and to do it soon, before my shift at SimSim. I turn on the laptop and log in again. The account total reads $701.84, so I find big entry turbo gains, which basically mean you aren't playing poker anymore, you're flipping a coin, except the odds are closer to 17% than they are 50. 6 of us buy in for $100 and start the match with 300 chips and 15-30 blinds. I'm dealt Jack Queen of Hearts and everyone folds to me, so I move all in on the 2 blinds. Both of them call. When the hand is over, a window pops up on my screen thanking me for playing and letting me know I placed 6. Fuck! I'm down to $600. I can't stop now. In fact, it's not even me deciding to continue. It's the expectation being put on me by everyone I've just shown the picture to. It doesn't matter that $600 is still 12 times the amount of money I put into this stupid site, because in this moment, $600 is $400 less than I had 10 minutes ago. I can only see this as a loss. Every bone in my body knows this is sick, impulsive or whatever, but that's my life. One bad decision after another. Besides, Frank's spotting me $250 for an hour of my time and doing it at least twice a week now. $600 ain't shit to me anymore. I lose another $100. Then I buy into a $200 turbo and lose that too. I have $300 left, but I might as well have 0. Instead of a turbo, I decide the best thing to do with my last $300 is to play heads up for the whole thing. So I find the table and jump in. I don't want to play, though. I just want to win. I move all in every hand, no matter the cards I'm holding. I want to boss this dude around the way my behavior is bossing me around. Eventually, he calls me with the better hand, and my chips slide over to him in one swift, digital fucking motion. My account total is $1.84. I kind of just sit there and stare at the number for a while, scared at what overcame me. What the actual fuck happened? Did I just lose $1,000? Am I that fucking stupid? I need a distraction, so I pull out my phone and scroll through Instagram. An ad for my favorite clothing company pops up. There's a limited edition jacket being sold, and only 25 of them are available. I don't even think about it. I just click, and all of a sudden $275 disappear from my bank account. You can afford it, I think. Talk to Frank once and you'll make all of that back. Talk to him 4 times after that, and it'll be like you didn't lose any money at all. I believe that to be true. I really do. Why was I so judgmental about girls with sugar daddies? Having someone practically give away their money to you feels great. It's like an inheritance that's dispersed in small doses. I can do whatever I want and never have to worry about money again. Frank, baby, I miss you. Can we talk? Day 208. Ben has been reaching out to me more and more now that he's broken up with Penny. But today's not a day for company. I feel miserable depending on Frank so much, and frustrated I haven't been on any dates in some time now, and figuring life out is hard once you reach a certain level of comfort. I'm bored when I have days to myself. I always imagine that I'll use them to write or learn new skills, but never do, so I turn to the only place I know will guarantee excitement: Craigslist. There's a wanted ad from an early 40s male searching for an early 20s boy. It doesn't get specific, says he has an open mind and loves to roleplay. In our emails, we discuss possible scenarios. He agrees to pick me up and tells me to be ready in 20 minutes. I wait outside of a Walgreens for him. The only description I have to go on is of a maroon Jeep Compass. I stand by a Redbox kiosk and pretend to be on my phone. I look up every time I hear a car, every time my peripherals spot one too. The nerves, the sweating, the shaky arms and legs, they're all present. I don't have much experience role-playing, so I'm nervous about that. But I guess I roleplay every time I meet up with someone since I never give them my real name or any personal details. This just feels different for some reason. I'm looking down at my phone when I hear a car roll up and the driver say, "Paul? Is that you?" Paul is my name for the evening. I wait until I'm inside the Jeep to say, "Mr. Phillips? Funny running into you here," he says. "Weren't you supposed to be with James and all his pals?" They ditched me. "Do you need a ride somewhere?" I'll tell you what. I have some meat cooking at home I want you to try." "Do you eat meat, Paul?" Mr. Phillips starts driving. "Sometimes, yeah. You're gonna love the one I'm cooking. But tell me, is everything alright between you and James? Why'd they ditch you?" "They found out I'm queer." He allows that to sit for a minute. "And so, are you?" I nod my head. "You like being with men?" "Well, I've never been with a real man before. Only boys. I see, I see. Do you think about being with real men? Sometimes. Do you want to be with a real man? I'm too scared, I say. I don't think so. Okay, just asking. I see him crack a smile as he speeds up. When we get to his apartment, the first thing he shows me is the kitchen. Obviously, there's no meat cooking. Crap! I must have forgotten to put the meat in the oven. Will you help me get it? It's in my room. Come on. I follow him into the bedroom. He locks the door behind me. Paul, I should tell you something. What's that, Mr. Phillips? I'm not going to cook anything for you. You're not? Take off your clothes. I start to take off my shirt, but he breaks character to stop me. Paul doesn't want to take off his clothes, remember? I don't want to take them off, I say as I let my shirt go. Why? You don't want me to tell James and the guys about this, do you? No. Take off your clothes. Now! The clothes come off. Mr. Phillips slaps my ass. Do you like that? I nod and he slaps it again, harder. Get on your knees. Mr. Phillips, please. Listen, Paul. Do you see that camera over there? He points to an empty corner in the ceiling. There is no camera. Right now, that shows you coming to your teacher's bedroom and getting undressed. If you want that to stay between us, you have to do as I say. Do you understand? Internally, I sort of panic. I can see that there's no camera, but that just seems like a poor choice of roleplay. Like, it makes me wonder if maybe there is a camera somewhere else in the room that I can't see. So as I continue to follow his instructions, I look around, paranoid. Yeah, okay. I get on my knees. What comes next? He asks. What do you mean? Are you playing dumb with me, boy? Undress me. Okay. Okay, sir. What? Call me sir. Actually, stand up again. Now. I stand up and let him turn me around. His hand comes down on my ass a third time, and I'm sure this one leaves a mark. Get down on your knees and undress me, Paul. I'm not going to tell you again. Okay. Now show me how badly you want to keep this a secret. Worship me, boy. At first I'm the one that puts him in my mouth, but he's so in character that 30 seconds later he ties my hands behind my back and starts pumping away, no part of me able to stop him except my gag reflex. The idea of doing this is always better than the act itself. Being on my knees for so long starts to hurt. I'm having trouble catching my breath and instead just keep coughing and choking. A thought comes to me. I wish it was a Wednesday night and Nat and I had just gotten home from the gym. We'd be fucking in the shower, telling each other how in love we are. Then I could make dinner and fall asleep next to her and maybe, just maybe, feel a different kind of warmth inside. Mr. Phillips insists on driving me home. In the car he starts grilling me for personal information. My soul is so deflated that I don't even try and hide it anymore. I answer every one of his questions. How long have you been out of the closet? I'm not actually gay. Well, bye, whatever. How long have you been doing this kind of thing? Oh, I guess that depends on what this is. Well, I don't know. Would you ever want to do it again? Or grab a drink or something? I look him up and down and feel like throwing up just then. I never want to sit down and be romantic with another man. Don't these guys get it? All I want is to be used and made to feel worthless. Fuck all this dating bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm just not gay, dude. That's okay. You'll reach out again. It's always a struggle when you're young, I get it. I roll my window down to drown him out with the sound of traffic. Day 213. I think I need to get my act together. All of this passive behavior needs to stop. I've been good about my life before. I should be able to do it again. My goal this weekend is to stay away from Craigslist. That seems as good a place to start as any. Ben picks me up around midday and takes me to his favorite part of the Greenbelt. It's a little weird being in his car without Penny and her dog Rigby. Quieter. I like hanging out just the two of us. No girls, no dogs, nothing but good old friendship. So what's up, man? I ask. You doing all right? He lets out a sigh of relief. He must not get asked that very often. I fucked up, dude. I fucked up bad. What happened? I got fucked up and went over to Penny's last night. It was stupid, man. Real fucking stupid. Did something happen while you were there? She wasn't home when I got there, so I waited for her in the hall. Then that fuckface you two worked with showed up asking if she was home. I guess he didn't get the memo about our breakup. The fuck was Dan doing there? Picking up weed because apparently Penny's a dealer now. Holy shit, I can't help but laugh. So she's really going for it, huh? Yeah, man. She was pissed when she saw me waiting outside. We got in a pretty bad fight. Yeah? She was coming home from a date. She told me she's been dating since the night after we broke up. Whoa, what the fuck? Right? That's how little I meant to you that you're gonna go on a date the night after you break up with me? And like, why the fuck is she telling you this? Because she's a selfish cunt. Yeah, she's acting like a crazy person. Turns out she started doing all these drugs we planned on doing when we were together. LSD, shrooms, Molly, you name it, she's done it. I'm a little worried about her, man. She's turning into a different person. I can hardly recognize her anymore. Yeah, I mean, you're doing a better job than I'd be if I was in your position. It must be hard, though. I'm sorry, man. He rolls down all 4 windows at once and hangs out his left arm. It's just weird. I don't know. Whatever. I honestly don't know if I would even want to get back together after all she's done to me. Is there any part of you that's, like, relieved? I mean, it seems like she was going to do all of this anyway, so at least she had the decency to be upfront with you, you know? That's not easy to do. I would know. I know you're right. It just sucks not being able to be a part of it anymore. 2.5 years, and for what? We can't even be friends now? You never know, man. 6 months from now, you might feel differently. You might be glad she's not your friend if she's going through this phase. Besides, you don't need to worry about getting back together with her. It's going to hurt for a while, but you don't want to make that mistake. Trust me. There's a cave near the rapids at Gus Frah that's famous for its weed smell. 9 times out of 10, you'll climb up to the top and find 3 or 4 kids smoking a joint on the rocks. From where you sit, you look down at rocks and water and out at an expanse of Texas forest. You can spot a house or 2 in the distance, but beyond that it's all green. Ben and I are lucky that it's empty when we get to the top, though it won't be for long judging by how many people were by the rapids at the bottom. I like to think about silly things sometimes, I start. You know, like, before I moved here I didn't even know Austin existed. You could have told me about the Greenbelt and I still would have had no concept for what it feels like to be here. Don't you love it? Summers in Austin when the girls are half naked and the sun's out till 8? I swear, sunsets are unreal here, and I grew up in Cancun. That's all they talk about there. I don't know, man. I like thinking about all that stuff too, but it seems harder for me to get home out of my head. Yeah, I miss being able to go out with all my friends in Streeter. They all have families now, and I won't get to watch their children grow up. Then there's my family, my parents need help, my brother just got a divorce, and now has to pay child support to 2 different women. Meanwhile, I'm over here jerking off and smoking weed to forget about a girl I used to be in love with. That's what makes this place so great, though. When you were still together, you did all kinds of shit. You came here, you went to parties on campus, concerts and music festivals, swam the river or the pool, blues on the green. But now that you're single, there's all of that and more. Do you know how easy it would be for you to start dating again, if and when you wanted to? Ben looks at me and smiles, looks back out the cave. You have a lot to look forward to, man. Maybe right now's not the best time to think about it, or the easiest or whatever, but you really do. 6 months from now, you're going to be somewhere completely different than where you are now, except you'll still be here in Austin. You've told me before how sad it is going back to Streeter to a bunch of people who have settled because they were afraid to try something bigger, or because they fucked up at a young age and have adult responsibilities now. Besides, you're like my best friend here, or, my only friend. You know I need these hangs as much as you do. Yeah? Dude, I was so fucked before Austin. If you had met me back then, you wouldn't have liked me. All I did was smoke weed and tell jokes and hurt people. You keep saying that. What people? How? I take a deep breath and say, I cheated on my high school girlfriend. Multiple times. I can't think about it for too long, or I start feeling guilty. But, yeah, I completely ruined her senior year, and maybe her life, who knows, 'cause it turns out she's a lesbian now. Oh shit. It sucks, man. I'm not proud. It's also one of those things you never really get over, you know? Sometimes before bed at night, I'll remember that. How sick she was after I told her, throwing up and shit. She couldn't eat for like months. I did that. I made someone else suffer. A lot. And I didn't even tell her the full truth. She probably would have killed herself if I had. Then where would I be? Jesus, I'm sorry, man. Oh no, man, I don't deserve that. I got off easy. All I did was sit in a fucking hammock and read books until the end of the year. Have you talked to her since? She reached out to me before we left for college. She wanted to meet up and, I guess, find closure. I was supposed to pick her up somewhere nobody would see us and drive us to a motel so we could fuck the pain away. What's crazy is that even then I knew that seeing her would be a mistake. So I texted her the day before and canceled the meet, and she lost her shit, called me all kinds of names, and started harassing me on social media. I had to block all communications with her. Part of me wishes that I had picked her up. There's always that sick little deviant in all of us that wonders, what if? What if we'd fucked one last time and decided to become friends? What if we got back together and tried the whole long-distance thing in college? Would any of it have made a difference? I don't know. I've been telling myself the same thing about Penny. Maybe if I hadn't spent so much of my time at her place, we'd still be together. Maybe if I had stopped drinking. A single drop of sweat enters my eye. It burns, like opening your eyes in the ocean, like sharing your most shameful memories with a friend and knowing that the worst ones are still unspoken. I think I'm going to start focusing on my mental health again, I say. I want to spend more time in the sun, doing shit outside. We should go on hikes more often. I love you, man. I'm sorry about Penny. Thanks. I love you too, buddy. I'm here for you, you know that? If you feel like isolating yourself, reach out to me instead. I know. I will. I don't believe the words as they leave my mouth. They're all wants of mine. I want to be there for someone because I'm having such a hard time being there for myself. One of these days it's going to catch up to me. Ben is going to be home alone one night with his phone in one hand and a 24-pack of Lone Star in the other. He'll think about how good it would feel to get drunk and then text me instead. But by then I'll have a mouthful of cock again, and neither one of us will be proud of our decision that night. Day 216. I almost expect it when I see Nat again. I'm surprised it hadn't happened yet, considering how she's continued to train at the same gym as me. She's wearing tight shorts that expose the big burn on her left leg and a sleeveless white t-shirt with a dark bra showing where her ribs are. She looks skinnier, though I'm not sure that's a healthy thing. She was already so fit. Her limbs seem fragile, like she shouldn't be allowed to hold pads for anyone today. Anyone but me. We make eye contact and smile. I walk over to her. Everyone around us warms up and stretches. "Hey," Nat says, voice shaky. "Nick, how are you?" "Nat, wow, you look so good." We hug. "I'm doing well, you know. Same old me. How are you?" She takes her golden hair in hand, longer now than it ever was before, and ties it into a ponytail as she says, "Great. I've been really, really good. You also look so good." But I must look so dumb because I can't stop smiling. "Do you want to partner up, for old time's sake?" Her eyes look at the mats for a split second, then come back up. She says, Yeah, let's do it." Our trainer, Bernardo, yells out for class to start. Nat and I do abs, push-ups, and squats right next to each other. Then she grabs pads and the partner portion of class begins. I can't believe the feeling. We haven't really cleared the air or talked, but there's an unspoken sexual tension between us. I mean, with how she's dressed, her ponytail bouncing every time I kick her, her face trying to hide how nervous she is. Part of me wants to throw her down on the mats and fuck her right here and now. The whole time I'm kicking and punching her, the same two lines repeat in my head. How could you ever let go of someone so beautiful? And I bet making her come wouldn't be a problem anymore. After class, we walk out to the parking lot together. "Do you need a ride home?" she asks. I appreciate the offer, but I have my dumb bike here with me. Her facial expression turns ever so slightly. A micro-expression of worry or sadness forms. I know how easy it would be for me to ask her out for a drink, with the excuse of catching up. I know how fun that would be, at first. It takes everything for me not to ask that, knowing also that by not asking, I'm implying that seeing her was a welcome surprise, but nothing more. "Thanks for being my partner," I say. "What do you mean?" "Just now, I mean, in class. That was a lot of fun. It's really great to see you doing so well." "Oh, yeah, that was fun. Thanks for being so encouraging in there. You must be coming pretty regularly because your kicks are killer." She blushes. "I should probably go," I say. "Yeah, me too. I'm glad I got to see you. It's been a while." "So am I. Bye." "Bye." I take one long look at her as she walks away, trying to remember what it felt like to leave class with her, drive her car, and trade notes on how we felt about our form. Then I hop on my bike and ride to the bus stop, all sorts of ideas bouncing around inside me. Right as I finish masturbating, I get a text from her. "Hey, it was really good to see you in class today. If you're free sometime this week, we should grab a drink and catch up." I'm standing over the toilet, staring down at my phone. I open her text to make sure that it's real. She's texting me? Has she forgotten how unstable we were? Does she really want to open that door again? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself and all she wants is a friendly hang. Maybe this is a good opportunity for me to practice being friends with an ex. I'll get one drink and see how I feel. There's no expectation. Just ask questions. And if you start thinking about sex or getting back together, remember how sad you were when it ended. There isn't really a decision to be made. I knew as soon as I saw the text that my answer was yes. Class was so much more fun with you there. Glad we could talk a little in between. A drink sounds great. Does Thursday at 8 work? Buzzmill? That's perfect. See you then. My cock gets hard again when I read that. Here's that golden ticket I've been waiting for. Someone to reel me in, away from all the darkness. Someone I can use as an excuse to get my shit together. I know if we get back together, I may not be as satisfied as I think I will be now, but at least I'll stop using Craigslist. I'll be free of Frank, and working at SimSim will stop feeling like a bad thing. I think of Nat's curls covering her smile when they stick to her sweaty face. I think of her laughing. I think of everything I've missed out on and how lucky I am to have this opportunity. I think of her naked. Day 218. She's in her work clothes when she finally shows up, 20 minutes late. She smells like fried eggs and grease. I finish my second beer as she sits down. Can I get you anything? I'm okay. I have to drive home, so I probably shouldn't drink. Oh, yeah, that's no problem. I also can't stay very long. Her tone catches me off guard. I realize how frustrated hearing that makes me. Here I was hoping this would be some magical romantic re-encounter, when really all it is for her is a throwaway friend date that means nothing. She couldn't even shower before meeting me? No, because she would have been even later if she had. I'm sorry, I don't mean to start off like that. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, no, I say. So am I. How is work? We worked a music festival tonight, so it was kinda crazy. Drunk people are so stupid. I'm sorry about that. We should have rescheduled. No, she says, glancing down at her phone. I'm happy to see you. Tell me about you. What's new with you? I'm going to Vegas in like a week. Finally gonna play in the World Series. Wow, that's so exciting. Are you going by yourself? Juan's coming with me. He's not playing though. Just wanted to see me. That's so fun. My sister and I are also going on a trip next week. Where to? Sayulita? Have you heard of it? I listened to Nat tell me about Sayulita and all the fun activities she has planned with her sister and her sister's boyfriend. I'm sure if we'd still been together, I would be going with her, but I'm kind of glad that I'm not. And thinking about how much I miss her, I keep forgetting about her religious, racist fucking family. Just the thought of talking to her mom again makes my skin crawl and my chest burn. The entire time she tells me about the trip, she also looks down at her phone. Then, not even 20 minutes in, she tells me she has to go. Whatever, you know, I told myself to lower my expectations, keep it friendly, so maybe her leaving is a good thing. It's too bad I really wanted her to drink with me so we could both get fucked up and make bad decisions and go back to my place. Before she leaves, she thanks me again for coming out with her. Then she walks away and I can't help but stare at her as she does. Why didn't her ass look this good when we were together? I miss it. I miss her. I really, really do. I think about how much I miss her on my walk home. I rub one out when I get there. The rest of the night is long, just me in bed staring at the ceiling fan as it goes round and round and round. One of these days I'm going to dust the blades.